I want to talk about Bitcoin. You wrote a whole book on this. Talk to me about your thesis around Bitcoin.
So, listen, I think Bitcoin, to me, the first real cryptocurrency on the blockchain, I think it was important to try to describe it to my clients. I'm getting old. Okay. I'm turning 59 in January. And so I'm sitting here as a 34-year veteran of Wall Street. My contemporaries don't understand Bitcoin by and large. They don't like it and they don't understand it. People older than me, like Warren Buffett, they think it's venereal disease or
rat poison squared.
Rat poison. I think Charlie Munger said it was the worst thing that ever happened to the civilization, something crazy like that. So a lot of people don't understand it, and that usually does happen. There is great resistance to new technology. Okay. There were many people that were in horses and carriages that thought the horseless carriage movement was a fad. There were many people that said, why do I need this quote unquote telephone? What would be the benefit of that? Bill Gates himself said that the internet was a fad. He said that in the mid 90s. And of course, he's one of the smartest people on the planet. So he very quickly corrected himself and built a very exciting internet business. My point being is we don't know. We're out there trying to figure things out. But for me, I think the blockchain, the innovation known as Bitcoin, is a game-changing asset for the world. And to really not to get too boring, because I don't want to give you the whole book, it'd be too boring, but just think of it this way. All money really is a technology that we're using between each other so we don't have to barter. But what if that money couldn't be corrupted? What if the money couldn't be additionally printed or electronically created? What if the ledger, the assets and liabilities associated with that ledger were concretized and they were frankly decentralized so that they were pure and they really couldn't be tainted? And that's what Bitcoin represents. And of course, the blockchain represents an ability to transfer that value anonymously or transfer that value without permission from third parties. And so, if you were riding in an elevator with me and you said, well, what is Bitcoin and the blockchain? I say, listen, it's a masterpiece. It is a technological masterpiece, and it's a wonderful delayering mechanism for an economy. And so ultimately, we'll be able to take out third parties, middlemen and middlewomen from transactions as a result of the blockchain and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And so my point about Bitcoin, it's the oldest of them. It has the highest market cap. And I do think that it will be around for a very long time. And of course, these layer 2 technologies, the Lightning Network, which is batching Bitcoin transactions and making them cheaper and moving the transactions faster, I think will create long-term lots of growth, lots of innovation economically for the world.
And
so that's my piece on Bitcoin.
Yeah. And it's important too. Like you used to be a skeptic. You admit this, that you used to be a skeptic on cryptocurrencies. What was it that made you change your mind?
So like Bill Gates said that he thought this was a fad. I was like, this thing's like a bunch of bullshit. I mean, what the hell what is this? I think I said something ridiculously stupid about it in 2012. Caveat emptor. I don't know anything about Bitcoin and I don't care. It's just a sign of my personal ignorance, which, but here's the thing. When you get something wrong, admit that you got it wrong and change your point of view as you learn more. Be intellectually curious. Don't be closed-minded. I can't tell you the number of people that were negative on Bitcoin that I have talked to that have changed their mind. Anthony Pompliano, by the way, I would give him a lot of credit in terms of helping me understand Bitcoin better than I originally understood it, and so I would say the Winklevoss brothers, Mike Novogratz, a contemporary of mine from Goldman and a friend, all of these guys were very helpful to me on my odyssey into the cryptocurrency space. So learn, be open-minded. But yes, I had a negative view of it. My knee-jerk reaction is similar. And by the way, I see lots of my contemporaries, when I talk to them about it, they have the same knee-jerk reaction that I had 10 years ago. And I say, yeah, I thought that way. But I think if you do more homework on it, you'll realize that it's here to stay.
Yeah. How about with the sell-off in Bitcoin? Because you mentioned that you were proud that you had it. I forgot the number. It was in the 60,000 plus range. And then also that you bought it when it was in the, I don't know, maybe it was like 14 or 16,000. I forgot what you said at the top of this, that you're proud of
my
both.
first Bitcoin. Yeah, you have a good memory. My first Bitcoin was, I think, at 16,000. I think my weighted average cost was like 18,500. I did buy some Bitcoin in the 60s. We had over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency assets at the peak. We probably have about $500 or $600 million now. And then you say to yourself, well, the overall market's down about 55 to 60%. Bitcoin's down 50. So you must have added to your Bitcoin. And the short answer is yes. As new capital comes into the firm, we have added to Bitcoin. And we bought Bitcoin in the recent weakness. I bought some Bitcoin after the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust was denied by the SEC. We bought some. And so, we're holders, we're owners. Where will Bitcoin be? I can't figure that out. Obviously, I've gotten that wrong in the short term. I said it would be over $100,000. I didn't anticipate the magnitude of the pandemic or the war in Ukraine, or the inflation disaster inducted by the Fed. I probably didn't see all of the variable externalities that would affect prices. You also had something in those markets, which I think people my age know, there are no new mistakes. You literally had fraud and leverage in those markets. It's like if Bernie Madoff and John Merriweather from Long-Term Capital Management, if they got together and had a baby, they'd name it Three Arrows. I mean, that was like leverage plus fraud. And so that also created and contributed to the collapse in the markets. But listen, that happens. That happened in 2000 in Web 1 in the NASDAQ markets. Just briefly, if you were a participant in the NASDAQ bubble burst of March of 2000, you could have gone and said, I will never buy a technology stock again. I've been burnt. Or you could say, okay, this is a huge buying opportunity. People that did the latter, they took advantage of a generational investing opportunity. The people that missed it, I have a lot of friends that missed things like Amazon and Google because they felt burnt in 2000. Those people, they missed a 25-year, 22-year generational opportunity, arguably the best investment in U.S. economic history, technology. So I don't want people, despite the bubble bursting, Bitcoin being below 20,000 again, I don't want people to lose sight of that. I want them to be long-term.
Do you think, I don't know, do you think it's like a bit of a healthy thing, like what's playing out right now, like more of a washout in the space? Like, how do you kind of assess?
Well, it's probably bad for me health-wise when I look at my portfolio, but yes, I do think it's a healthy thing, meaning that, these washouts, these cleansings, if you will, have a tendency to make people better, sharper, more efficient. Here's what happens. We're in a recession. Okay, I got to tighten the belt. Maybe lay off some people, watch expenses. And then all of a sudden you start growing again and growing and growing. And then you start spending, and then you do that again. It's a little bit of a cycle.
Gotcha.
I'm always cautious about our real estate because when we're doing well, we want more space, and we're doing less well, we want less space. And I got to try to take the mama bear approach and just say, okay, everybody relax. We'll put more people in this space. And if the world comes to an end and people need to leave the firm, we'll operate in this environment. But my point is, all businesses, they grow. Sometimes they sputter and sometimes they grow. Lots of these technology companies have grown more or less in a straight line. But on Wall Street, we have a tendency to be more in a cyclical business than people really fully appreciate. So I always try to be a little cautious.
Yeah. How about, during these times, like what kind of discussions do you have with investors? Like, how do you kind of talk to them? Like when they see the price of Bitcoin kind of collapse, like what are those conversations like?
Well, I mean, they're emotional. People are emotional with their money. We learn in school that we're all rationalists, but we're not with our money. People get very emotional. So people are upset with me. Why didn't you sell the Bitcoin? You had it at 69,000. Why didn't you sell the entire thing and just buy it back here at 18,000? The short answer to that is I'm not smart enough to do that. The longer answer is that this was a 5-year bet on Bitcoin. We're in year 2 of a 5-year bet. If we're right and Bitcoin's worth $300,000, arguing over whether we bought it at 60,000 or 20,000 is going to be moot. If we're wrong, then you can hold my feet to the fire. But I think I have it sized appropriately so that if we're wrong, it's not overly consequential. Embedded in our core portfolio are things like Point72, Steve Cohen, Millennium, Izzy Englander, Dan Loeb at Third Point. We have some great world-class money managers embedded inside the portfolio. So let's say that I'm wrong on Bitcoin. We're going to be fine. We're buffered by all of that. And so it's a mix of things. And I try to tell clients that calm down. Don't be in a rush to sell. You should be thinking about buying and adding to your portfolio. We're a 17-year-old company. We're about to be 18 in March of next year. We're not going anywhere. I absolutely love what I'm doing. Unless the good Lord takes me off the planet, I intend to be doing this for another 30 or 40 years. Everybody calm down. My mentors, people I look up to, are people like Alan Patricof, started his 3rd or 4th business at age 85. Warren Buffett is 91. Phil Carre lived to 101. Mario Gabelli, a close personal friend of mine, 82. I want to be in the game, locked in, working for a very long period of time. You have to take a long-term horizon on these markets. If you're not going to take a long-term horizon on the markets, you are going to allow your emotions to sell you out of things too quickly. And I think that that's a big mistake.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about Bill Gates. Let me tell you one of my real stupid mistakes, if you don't mind.
Yeah, tell me.
I bought Microsoft at age 27. I had just gotten rehired at Goldman Sachs. I said, okay, I'm going to put some money into Microsoft. I think I was putting, $1,000 in every 3 months. I didn't have a lot of money back then. And then I put $10,000 in. And then I think I was making, as I started to make more money, maybe $50,000 a quarter investments in Microsoft. And I had this reasonably sized position as Microsoft did very well. And then during the bomber years, it sort of flatlined. You could look at the stock and it flatlined. Then it went down a little and then it flatlined. And people said, oh, well, that's dead money. That is a dead stock. And so what I did was I sold my Microsoft. I had a large gain in my Microsoft because I owned it for 20 years, paid the taxes, and I reinvested it in a smattering of things. Stupid. All I had to do was stay in the Microsoft and ignore it. And lo and behold, Microsoft being a world-class company, they figured out what they needed to do to grow again. And they created the cloud business and they went on to great success. I think I sold it. I think it's probably 5 or 6 to 1 from where I sold it. And so, yeah, it doesn't reflect well on me. But that is a classic investment mistake. Had a 20-year hold on Microsoft. Why not have a 30-year hold? That was my mistake. I have to own it for the rest of my life. But I want to illustrate that for people. Why not just hold it? These are great companies. Bitcoin, to me, is dirt cheap. It's only got a market cap of $400 billion. Look at where Microsoft's market cap is, Facebook, et cetera. I think Bitcoin is more consequential. Those are great companies and they deserve their market caps. But I think Bitcoin is more consequential to the world than those companies and therefore should have a much higher market cap than those companies. And I believe that it will over time, but it doesn't right now. So what should I do? The market sentiment is negative. Should I sell it or should I sit tight and be patient? And I'm telling you that I don't want to make those mistakes that I've made at earlier parts of my career.
Yeah. And that's plays into it. You're talking about the long-term horizon. And you mentioned that it's dirt cheap. What is kind of like your big picture price target for Bitcoin in the long run? And what do you think needs to happen for it to get there? You don't have to give it a timeline or anything, or maybe you want to. I don't know if you want to, but
it's more, someone will say, well, it doesn't have any earnings, no dividends. Or why do you think it's dirt cheap? I think it's dirt cheap because I'm looking at use cases and applicability, and I'm looking at the shortage of Bitcoin relative to what will ultimately be a demand shock related to Bitcoin. So I think for all those reasons, it is a commodity. You have to treat it like a commodity, and it's a commodity that will be in high demand, and it's frankly very scarce. So therefore the price should go up. My long-term investment horizon is $300,000 to $500,000 a coin for Bitcoin. I think it gets there over the next 5 to 10 years. But I'm just saying we could be sitting here. Think about how quickly 5 years goes, Julia.
It goes by so fast.
5 years was 2017. I got my ass fired from the White House 5 years ago. Okay. So that 5-year period of time went by very quickly. If Bitcoin is trading at 300,000 5 years from now, Bitcoiners like myself are not going to be surprised. I think some people in the world will be, but why not just sit tight and just relax, and let's say I'm wrong. Let's say it's 100,000, still a 5-to-1 return from where we are right now. So to me, I could be right and it will be very successful. I could be wrong. Okay. And let's say, I'm wrong. It's going to be a smaller part of my portfolio, but I think it's sized appropriately.
Yeah. Okay. So I've heard you talk about this before, but how do you think it ultimately disrupts like traditional financial services? I've heard you kind of give other analogies of other areas that have been disrupted by technology, but how do you see it as someone who's been in this space for so long? How do you see it disrupting?
So I do think that it's going to disrupt the way we transact, whether we're going to the restaurant and we're paying directly to the waiter, to the wallet of the restaurant, bypassing American Express and Visa. Well, if we're sending money, we're an expat from El Salvador, sending money to mom and dad. We're going to bypass Western Union and save all those fees there. You may be in a situation where products, remember, Amazon is a third-party provider. Amazon is a middle person, man or woman, but let's say person, middle corporation. If I do a transaction on Amazon, there's 4 parties involved, right? Let's say I'm buying my Right card. It's manufactured by Procter & Gamble. It's sold to Amazon. I then buy it from Amazon, but I'm using my Amex or my Visa card. So now you have 4 people in the transaction. You may come to a period of time because of the blockchain, the security of it, and, people are comfortable with it. I send the money directly to Procter & Gamble, and they hire a low-cost fulfillment agent to send me back the product. And that all of a sudden 2 middle men or middle women are taken out of the equation. I may be able to go into Starbucks with a tokenized version of Starbucks stock on my phone, and they're having a share repurchase. Maybe they'll give me a discount, and I sleeve over to them, swipe over to them some of my tokenized Starbucks stock. See, the problem that we're having right now is that it's so early. We're having a hard time envisioning the future. 25 years ago, we couldn't do this Zoom call. 25 years ago, we couldn't stream 4K video. 1 billion people streaming 4K video over the internet. It took 35 seconds for my AOL landing page to land 25 years ago. But here we are 25 years later, 1997 to 2022, and look at all the applications, look at all the trillions of dollars of transactions that are happening over the internet. Look at the way we're able to use the internet to converse with each other. To me, I think that's where cryptocurrency is going over the next 25 years. We can't really fully envision how we're going to use all of this stuff. But what I can tell you is not only are we going to use it, it's going to replace things that we're currently using. Now, someone will say, well, what do you mean? You're going to replace the US dollar? No, I think there'll be fiat currencies. I think you'll still have the US dollar, but maybe it will help keep policymakers and politicians more honest. Maybe if you have harder currencies out there like Bitcoin, you'll have policymakers saying, okay, we've got to be less spendthrifty. We have to be less of a manufacturer of these dollars. And I know we're not stupid, right? Let me just show you this book. I just finished.
Yeah, you're such a voracious reader. Please show it.
You're not stupid. Safadine is explaining how fiat currencies have worked over the last 5,000 years, how they get weakened by the government as the government doesn't want to make hard choices. If I don't want to make hard choices, I print more money And that will temporarily solve the problem, but then it creates an additional set of problems. See what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, we're here now. Hopefully the government will figure this out. It sounds like Jerome Powell wants to do that. I think his speech was actually thoughtful and a good speech. My portfolio suffered as a result of Jerome Powell's speech last week, but I think long term, he's directionally right. And I think we'll be made better as a result of that.